Welcome to the Black Entrepreneur Experience podcast, where we bring you conversations with entrepreneurs, CEOs, and innovative thinkers from around the world. I'm your host, Dr. Frances Arlene Entz. What happens in Vegas goes all over the world on Black Entrepreneur Experience episode number 575. Today's guest is Dr. Lisa, a financial educator, licensed real estate professional, independent publisher, and author of It Was Never Just About the Numbers. She helps people better understand credit, homeownership, and the financial decisions that shape their future. If you ever wanted to feel more confident about your financial choices, this is the conversation you won't want to miss. Welcome, Dr. Lisa.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Arlene. I appreciate it.
I've given our audience such a brief bio. Why don't you fill in the gaps and share with our audience what you'd like them to know about you and your business?
So I guess I will start with where the journey began, and I didn't even realize it. So it started with um, I was speaking to a homeowner about their, purchasing situation, and I asked about their credit, and they whispered their score. I had to ask them 7 times. I'll remember that as long as I live, right? And the octave never went up. And so then I was talking to a business entrepreneur because I help people create businesses as well. And we were talking about, all aspects of getting this business off the ground. And the last thing they wanted to talk about was the credit. So it was two different um, ecosystems, but the response, the shame was the same,
Mm.
right? And so that's when I realized I got really angry. And then I started talking to my colleagues in different areas, education and all of that. And everybody had the same kind of feeling about it, right? And that really led to the book. It was never just about the numbers. And then the ultimate book that I did later was Fix the Credit File. But it started with that. It was about the shame of it and not being able to own that it was more about the system. And people took it as a personal failure. So that was just interesting to me. And that's how it started.
Let me ask you about your journey. I want you to go a little bit deeper. Did real estate or credit, did it marry you or did you marry it?
So my journey actually started with advocacy, even before I knew there was such a word, right? So I grew up in Chicago. I was the middle child. And one day, my siblings and I decided we didn't like the rules in the house. And we were going to have a chat with our parents. So the reality of it is at the time, I call it the basement quorum now. Like we had this discussion and we were going to march upstairs because my parents are up in the kitchen. And my brother was supposed to be in front. So as we're marching up the stairs, somehow I ended up in the front. So I get to the top of the stairs and we burst into the kitchen. And I say to my parents, we want to have a conversation with you because we don't like the rules. And my mom, who was cooking, turned around and looked at me and she just looked. And I said, and I started to just kind of babble. And my dad, he just kept looking. He didn't have a smile. He didn't have a smirk, but in his eyes, he was laughing at me. And the funny thing about it is my mother asked the question, who is we? And I thought she was trying to be funny, right? And I said, we. I said, the three of us, this is what we want. We don't like these rules and these chores that you're having us to do. And my mom said again, who is we? And I turned around. She says, because I don't see three, I see one. And I was the only one left. My siblings had abandoned me. And at that very moment, I decided that the question still needed to be asked. I had to stand behind it, even though I was left holding the bag, so to speak. So at that moment, I thought that was my personality, but it was really my life's calling. And so it showed up in every room that I walked in that I wanted to ask questions about, and that the systems or the processes was not fully understood. And I wanted to make sure that I could ask the questions. So at a very young age, advocacy is actually the through line. And it married me. It married me in real estate. It married me in courtrooms. It married me in education. It married me because I saw things and I wanted to do something about it.
And so on your journey, you started out, you talked about the courtroom, you talked about real estate, education. What was that aha moment? So tell us the actual steps that you took in terms of even the education to get you there. So did you start out in credit and then go into real estate? Did you get your degrees first? How did that transpire?
So I got my degrees first, and I think a lot of us do that, right? We do the degrees thinking that they're going to be the catalyst, right? And I kind of talk about that, and it was never just about the numbers because we believe, as we should, that education is the umbrella, right? So if we get enough letters behind our names or enough of that, we think that that's going to open up doors to us, right? And that was not the case because I was having conversations with these individuals about credit, but not really about credit. Does that make sense? Right. I was having conversations about the process, which involved credit, and they were focused on a score. Right. So I got the degrees first to answer the question because I know I can go around it. But I got the degrees first. And then I went into different arenas and got the formal education, like hands on training about it, and got even more degrees so I could understand how the process worked.
Okay. And you have dealt with a lot of clients. Tell us one specific client that really stands out and only share what you can share. You don't have to
Right.
share specific names,
Right.
anything. What
Right.
was the impact, Dr. Lisa, that you made in their life?
So the one client that I had, she was a older woman. She had been divorced. And I'll never forget her as long as I live because she is the reason that I went deeper. She was when she divorced, and she had been divorced for maybe 10, 15 years. But at the time of her divorce, her husband spoke into her life. She would never do anything. She would never own anything. She would never have anything. And she took that belief and she internalized it, right? And she carried it and she walked with her. So when she first met me to try to purchase, she said, "I'm gonna purchase in 2 years, but I wanna talk to you right now. I'm gonna tell you what I don't wanna do and what I'm not gonna put up with." I was like, "Yes, ma'am, no problem." And literally, she called me the next month because she wanted to go see a property, okay? Within 2 weeks of that, we were putting in an offer and she called me and she stopped.
Mhm.
Didn't believe that she could. So all the things that we have been trying to overcome, she she couldn't get across the finish line. And I didn't, pester her about it, or I didn't it was no judgment. But I said to her after that, after she stopped the process, God is good because it came back up. The property came back up. That's how I know God is able to do all things. Yes. But my point is so I began to ask her, let's look at what you've spent over your lifetime in rent. And because she was a single woman, she had, stayed in, gated communities and stuff like that. She had spent over $750,000. And I told her if she could afford to spend that from the time that she was divorced and she left they separated and they were divorced and she left that home and she had never purchased another home because she couldn't, she had already done it 3 times over. So there's no such thing as what we can't do is we have to learn how to do what it is. And when she finally signed, we both were crying.
Wow.
And my cry for her was not because she was a homeowner. Yeah, that too. But it was a homeowner. And I told her the devil is a lie. And don't you ever let anybody speak. And she was older than me. But I said, don't you ever let anybody speak over your life or into your life something that you have a dream about. And it's the same thing with people that want to be entrepreneurs. It's the same thing. We're probably already doing half the things that we want, but we're afraid. And that was the fear for her. So that's the story that makes me stay grounded.
And why do you do the work you do?
I do the work that I do because I believe in service. Service is not just a moniker for me. It's a it's a real thing, right? As is advocacy, right? But I didn't know it, right? Because I'm always in somebody else's business, trying to figure out, like, if I see something, I want to kind of address it. But the service to me is the linchpin, right? I want to make sure that if you have an opportunity, that you can walk through the door. Not because you don't not because you don't have the tools. I want you to have the tools and the knowledge. It's one thing if you say to me, Lisa, I never want to own. Great. I want you to tell me why. Why don't you want to own? Right? And so if you don't want to own, then I want you to be able to answer that question and be right about, not it's not in your it's not because you don't have the ability, it's because you chose not to. See, the thing that I used to say to as an educator, I used to say to my students, you want options. You just want options. And you don't want to be chosen, you want to do the choosing. And you only get there through option. You don't get it if you're linear and you only have one lane.
Let's talk about business continuity and
Mm.
what is your highest risk as a business owner?
My highest risk as a business owner is continuity, because you're going to have ebbs and you're going to have flows. Um, but the biggest risk is having a community. You have to have a community, because when you have the ebbs and flows for your business to continue and to grow, you have to have the resources to lean on other people, right? And we walk around in silos in our community. We really do, right? And a lot of it is fear, but a lot of it is just because we don't know any better, right? And I was talking to a physician the other day, and she was saying, Lisa, it's more than just advocacy. You're always talking about that. She says, but we also have to have spaces for those conversations to happen. So it would
If
be,
you lost everything and you had to rebuild in 30 days,
mm,
in what industry and why?
if I lost everything and I had to rebuild in 30 days, it would be real estate. And the reason being is because it is the most entry level, non credentialed arena that you can walk into and potentially be in millions of dollars. So it would be real estate, and it would be real estate, hands down, hands down.
I want you to have a monologue and I want you to name this person, living or not. And they have inspired and impacted your life so much, Dr. Lisa. Who is that person and what are you saying to that person?
They can be famous or not famous.
They could be famous, not famous, living, not living. Who is that person that has impacted your life so much? And you are telling them the impact that they made in your life.
So this, my mother, who's no longer living, I would say to my mother, you know what, mom? Everything that you said, mommy, is true. The things that you taught us about education being the greatest umbrella for everything that we're going to do, and to be very careful about how we treat people, because that matters, and to have it's important for people to have dignity no matter where they are in the spectrum. Those things have served me well, and to believe in something and to never stop. You and I used to have conversations, mom, about fear. And I would say to you all the time, mom, fear is just something that we can either use to move us or to make us stop. And you would laugh when I would say it, but I understood why you laughed and you didn't comment, because you wanted me to own it. And that's true. I thank you
And,
so much for everything.
and say your mother's name.
My mother's name is Gloria Hoover. Yeah.
Yeah.
Gloria, my mom. Yes.
Yeah. Yes. Thank you for that and our sincere sympathy for
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
loss.
Yeah.
So think about that moment when you got that call
Hmm.
and that crisis happened
Hmm.
in your family, whether it was your mom or someone else. Did you know where all the accounts are, the documents and everything? Uh, to handle all of the things that needed to be handled?
Yes and no. Yes, I knew tangentially where they were because my brother had tried to prepare us. You know, she was always writing stuff down. So if I get writing from anyone, it's from my mom. And she would be writing, she would write us letters because we wouldn't listen. So she would write us letters so she could talk to us, right? But in the moment, I knew nothing. I knew absolutely nothing. But because of what she had told us, particularly me, I was able to do it automatically without even thinking. I had never prepared an obituary. Are you serious? Like that was traumatic. But I remember as I look back on myself, it's like I'm looking at it and I sat down with my siblings and with the writer to do her obituary and we did it. I have no idea. I have no recollection except for that vivid picture of how I got through that. I remember sitting at her funeral and I don't remember any of it. But all of it was taken care of in the way that she would have wanted, in the order that it should have been. And that's the conversation I think we need to have with our young people. And we need to start that young, start it early, that we need to be having these conversations, not because we think that we're going to die, because we all at some point will, but it's about preparing them so that they aren't taken advantage of, so that they can know what to do. Because lots of times, particularly with people that, in our community, they will take and have money in their bank accounts and the banks end up with the money.
So you just spoke about your mom and the importance of us writing things down. If something happened to you tomorrow, is there anything you wish you had written down for the people that you just spoke about that need to know?
I would want them, yes, I would want them to know the future because a lot of times we're writing about the moment. So I would want to write a future letter to them about when they turn 30, when they turn 40. And I would really want it to be that detailed as far as blocks. Like when you turn 30, this is what I hope you will experience. And if you don't, I want you to try to experience this. And when you turn 40, and when you to get past 50, don't even worry about it. You got this all the way. And just try to enjoy life, but take the lessons. So, like one of my favorite quotes is from Nelson Mandela that it's either a lesson or a win. And the reality of it is that's true. But it took me many years to understand it, right? Either I'm winning or I'm learning a lesson. And even if I'm learning a lesson, I've realized that's still a win. And I think we tend to see things as failures or as winning. Just like we see money, we see revenue versus visibility, right? But here's the thing, it's really about impact. Because one of the things my mother had a lot of isms. She would say the money will come, do the work. And that's what I say to every entrepreneur that I've ever assisted. Do the work. Own it. Understand that you're going to have fear, but this is how I want you to use the fear. Fear is going to save you. Don't ever let it be a roadblock. Let it be a propeller. Take the energy because fear is very powerful, right? And so if you can take that energy and use it to propel you, then it's going to save you from sometimes some bad decisions and it will help you to keep going because you're going to get knocked down. The thing is to get back up. You don't have an option. The option is not to quit. The option is to keep going.
So, speaking of getting knocked down and not quitting for your business specifically, if you were out for 30 days,
Mhm.
starting tomorrow, what's the one piece of information someone would struggle to find?
They would struggle to find how to navigate the process of the credit file. The reason being is that's such a personal thing because people talk about the credit score. That's the thing that was the shame that started all of this fix the credit file company, right? Is because it was the shame of it, right? So everyone deals with the score. But they need to understand that the score is a snapshot in time, whereas the credit file shows the pattern and it tells a story that may or may not be true about you. So I think the thing that people would that would be the difficult thing that they would have a problem determining would be that, right? That part. Because that's the one that I speak about, and I may have to speak about it a couple of times for people to really get it's a mindset shift more than anything. Like we need to think about it in the larger context.
Absolutely. And you talked about the credit score being a snapshot in time. Let's take a snapshot of the last 30 days
Okay.
and talk about your win.
Okay. Okay.
And what was your biggest lesson or win? And what was your takeaway?
So my biggest win was finally getting a client that had been 2 years into a home. It was working with her credit file because all she ever talked about, her and her husband, was their credit score. And to actually take them across the finish line after stopping and starting, because they stopped and started many times during the 2 years, but taking them on a path where they could really understand the possibilities. Because once your credit file is manageable and understood, then you begin to leverage it as the system that it is. So you're no longer asking about your credit score. You're asking, how does my file look? What patterns is it talking about me? Right? What story is it telling a underwriter or a lender that may not be true about me? And how do I change that narrative so that I get to tell my story, not the algorithm?
And how did you celebrate that win?
So we celebrated by dancing. So when we got to the home, right, I had all of this stuff ready for them and I just put on music to dance, right? And I wanted them to be as loud as they could be because I think a lot of times we need to release the very thing that's been holding us, right? And so I was just as loud. I was like, I'm glad it was during the day. So a lot of people were at work that may have been around, and we got as loud as we could and we laughed and we didn't really cry. We had laughter. And it was just like they were in unbelief. But I wanted them to leave that. I mean, I left them in having that moment. I shared maybe like 15 minutes of it and then I left intentionally because I wanted them to continue without me because I wasn't going to be there after that. And I wanted them to be able to own that moment. And I'd set up a video thing so they could record all of it. And so when times get tough, when things are not right, I told them go back to that video and look at it because you're going to need an anchor. And that would be the anchor. So
Dr. Lisa, what is your zone of genius?
mm, decoding systems, whether it is whether it's writing, whether it is credit, whether it is the legal system, whether it is educational, it is decoding systems and making them so that we understand. Because sometimes when we have conversations with people, we're talking what we know, but we need to bring it down to a level that they can understand, and we need to make it relatable.
Let's talk about there are so many risks and
Mm,
rewards in business.
mm,
And I like to look at it as an opportunity.
mhm.
What was your worst moment in business and what was your takeaway? So, what was the opportunity from that moment that may be classified as a worst moment in business?
The worst moment in business was not being able to meet a need, specifically for a client. And this was for my educational background is kicking in, is for a writing lab, because I have a writing lab live to help middle school students. and their parents, because they say that, particularly black boys can't write. And the I took the child through the writing lab, and I just let him free write. And he had all the answers. But the rubric that the teacher gave was very structured and limiting. So I had to break down the rubric and just let them free write first. So we went up to the school because they said he plagiarized, because there's no way he could write like that. Absolutely no way. And the good thing about it is all my writing lab lives are Zoom recorded. So I had evidence of the fact that he had never plagiarized, that he did the free write while we were on the Zoom. And then we walked through everything that he did. And it was frustrating because they still didn't believe him. And the parents didn't want to push it because he still had to attend that school. And it was a private school, but it didn't matter to me. And so that was the biggest lesson, that you can do all the right things and they still will limit you on your ability.
And do you know what happened to the student? How was it?
So, no, I really don't. I mean, I've talked to the parents, because I was ready to go to like superintendents and school boards. I mean, because that's in me, the advocacy again, right? I'm trying to take over their situation. And the father just was like, he has to finish out the school year. So let's just try to make this work. And the teacher, I mean, when I met with the assistant principal, which was for the middle school, she was like, "You're not going to talk to my teachers in such a way, right?" And the only thing I asked them is, how could you not honor the fact that he did a free write? He showed you the free write. And when a child is first finding their voice, not honor that instead of being accusatory. And she was like, "I will put you out." I said, "You have absolutely that right to put me out, but I absolutely have the right to ask a question." So that was a lesson for me.
What was your takeaway?
My takeaway is that you could, again, it was that you can do all the right things and you can go about it the right way. And if the system is not willing to honor you, they won't. But you must learn that you've honored yourself in it, if that makes sense. And so what I told the young man is I had a whole session with him afterwards. I said, "Let me tell you something. You have it." I said, the rubric is scary to you. And so you're trying to answer the rubric. I said, "But from now on, whenever you write, do the free write. Do it for 10 minutes. Everything you know about that subject or the book or whatever it is, I don't care what subject it is, write it down and then let's deconstruct it." And he was just amazed at what he knew about the book when she had told him he knew nothing. But he was trying to answer a rubric that was never fully explained about how to write. So the lesson for me was that we need to keep encouraging our young people. We need to let them know that we have them, that we support them. They're not alone in this battle. And so that writing is not such a scary thing.
I like that. Advice you wish you had followed.
Hmm. My mom says that I jump in too fast. So the advice I wish I had followed is to just step back for a second and think about my next action. Don't necessarily go from reacting and then action steps. Really to thinking to action steps.
What's on the horizon for you over the next 6 months? We got about 6 months into the end of 2026. What is that one thing that you want to accomplish by the end of 2026?
By the end of 2026, I want to fix the credit file, the new book that I did. I want it to explode. Why? Because I want people to learn the language of the credit file system. Not credit repair, not these quick fixes that people have to consistently go back to get it again, I want them to understand what the patterns of life really are. So I want it to explore, I want it to be language that we're comfortable with. Like, I want you to understand that Equifax is the leasing whisperer, right? Or TransUnion is the mortgage whisperer. They have certain um personas each of these data companies have, right? Because it's all they're doing is collecting data and creating a story. But they have so-called expertise in those that we need to understand so they're not so scary. Because once you decode the system, you know how to work within it.
And tell them how they can get that book. And we want them to not only get the book, but
Mhm.
we want them to leave a review.
Right. So definitely.
Review specifically about what they learned from reading the book.
So the book is available on my website at drlisahoover.com. You can also find it on Amazon. It's You can find me at Dr. Lisa Hoover One, my Instagram handle, right? And really at Level Up Dr. Lisa Hoover YouTube, right? Those are the ways that you can reach out to me. But definitely, my website is how you receive that book. Fix the Credit File, The Ultimate Credit Guide, Build Your Future is the long title for it. But it was never just about the numbers. I would want people to read that, particularly people in our community, because I want us to understand how we got here. Sharecropping is no different than the credit file system. They're the same.
And expound on that for the audience.
So the sharecropping is where where people would work the land and they would get paid from the land, but they would never really own the land, right? And they would forever be in a cycle where they could never be ahead. The credit system mimics that. It's the same thing, right? They think about when we all went to college. We're given a credit card. It was like, oh, freedom, right? I know I was. I was like, hey, I can do whatever I want. I'm gonna buy whatever I want. But no one taught me that the responsibility of that credit and what it would tell about me, right? So I could splurge. It's not for you to splurge, it's for you to be responsible because all it is doing is telling you you don't want to forever be tied to a system where you're paying for a credit card or you're paying on a credit card that it'll take you years to ever pay off. Same thing with the sharecropping. They worked and they never got ahead. How's that possible? If you're doing the work, right? Because the system of it is mimicking, not necessarily the ethics of it, if that makes sense.
And that's another thing that I hear, even in terms of real estate,
Mm-hmm.
how they're giving 50-year loans now. So you never own the house. And they were talking about in some countries, I believe, like in some countries, they own the house
Right?
and the land.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is your recommendation around that? Am I getting a 10-year? Am I getting a 30-year? Am I getting a 50-year? And talk to the person in the audience. And I think that I like when you specifically it's talking about the mindset, because that's
Right.
the key,
Right.
because you think that you can never pay this off, which is not true.
Which is not true. So one of the things that I do with my clients, all of them, after we have my celebration, right? I then call them a week later and we have another conversation about how they're going to pay this off before it's due. They're not going to be stuck with this and how they're going to be able to leverage this for some other dream that they may have. This is one, homeownership. But do you want to own a business? Do you want to start a nonprofit? Do you want to do something else? Then you can use this as leverage. So let me just go back to answering that question. So one of the things is, yes, they offer all these different loans, and now they're going to start offering 50-year loans. Are you serious? I mean, come on. To me, it's ludicrous. Um, so what I tell my clients to do, you get the 30-year, you can get the FHA because FHA is for entry level. People see FHA as a negative, but we need to understand that FHA wasn't even offered to us until 30 years later. It was for white communities to be able to elevate. And then they redlined and gave us what was left over. So the reality of it is that you use the tools that they have. Again, it's a system. And you don't take 30 years to pay it off. You take and you make a payment, an extra payment at the end of the year for the entire monthly payment, not just the mortgage payment. That means if there's taxes included, if there's insurance included, whatever that amount is. So if your mortgage is 1,300, but with your taxes and insurance is 1,800, the amount you pay additionally at the end of the year is that 1,800, and it all goes towards your principal. Because for the first 7 to 10 years, you're only paying interest anyway. And then while you're at it, and my clients have paid theirs off in 15 years. And then I challenged myself, how can we do even better? So then I told my clients, try this. When you get a refund from your taxes, take 30% of that refund or 50% if you can swing it. After you make the payment for that month, make another payment in that, whatever that 30 to 50% is, and put it on principal only. And they paid theirs off in 7.5 years.
Love it. Love it.
So they saved themselves millions of dollars in interest. So they weren't making money off of my client. Sorry.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Dr. Lisa, if you conducted this interview, what is the one question you would have asked yourself? I want you to ask the question and answer it.
The one question I would have asked myself is, why do you do this? Why do you do this? And the answer to that question is because credit file versus credit score, they're just numbers. At the end of the day, all of it, your income, all of them are data points. And we walk around with the shame of it. So I did it because I wanted to change credit illiteracy into credit power. We walk around illiterate about the credit file because we have been told the credit score is important. That's a red herring for our community because we are chasing a score and we're never addressing the bigger picture that we're going to be grilled about when we go to purchase or to get any type of business funding. It's going to be the file.
Absolutely. We've come to the part of the interview. It's called Rapid Round of Fun. I want to answer a series of questions, okay, very quickly. And if it's something you desire not to answer, feel free to say pass. Are you ready for the Rapid Round of Fun?
I am ready.
Your first job.
Popeyes.
You relax doing what?
Listening to music and reading, sometimes at the same time.
Your favorite singer or rapper?
So my favorite singer is the Dells from Chicago, and my favorite rapper is Tupac Shakur. So I have both.
Your favorite dance song?
Happy by Pharrell.
What food you eat every week, no matter what?
Salad.
Your favorite comfort food?
Potato chips.
Workout or hit the couch?
Workout.
Dr. Lisa Hoover, thank you so much for joining us on Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. Before we let you go, share with our audience the best way for them to connect with you and to do business with you. And feel free to leave all your social media handles.
The best way to reach me is drlisahoover.com, which is my website. Instagram handle, Dr. Lisa Hoover, the number 1. You can also reach me via YouTube at Level Up Dr. Lisa. And where am I forgetting one? I think I have a TikTok too. I'm sure I do. It's my website. The email is partners@drlisahoover.com. My Instagram is Dr. Lisa Hoover, the number 1, as I said. YouTube is at Level Up with Dr. Lisa Hoover. My LinkedIn is Dr. Lisa Hoover, and my community is Parallels Path Network. That's
Thank you, Dr. Lisa. That is a wrap.
all right. Thank you. I appreciate everything.
Page
Yes.
more.
Okay.
Thank you for listening to Black Entrepreneur Experience Podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us a review. Share it with your friends and help others discover the show. For more episodes and show notes, visit www.beepodcast.com. Join us next Wednesday for another episode. And remember, green is the new black. So keep your bank account and your business in the black.